Nigeria's opposition, African Democratic Congress, has criticized President Bola Tinubu over the announcement of 65 ambassadorial postings out of the country's 109 foreign missions. In a statement, the party's National Publicity Secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi, said announcing envoy postings before securing the required agreement from host countries contradicts diplomatic protocol under the Vienna Convention on diplomatic relations. The party also questioned why the government is yet to disclose appointments for the remaining 44 missions, raising concerns about Nigeria's diplomatic representation abroad. The presidency announced the postings after the Senate confirmed the nominees, but officials are yet to respond to the criticism or clarify plans for the outstanding mission. To discuss this, we are joined by public affairs analyst, Professor Simeon Nnah. Professor.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, so the opposition, African Democratic Congress, has pretty much vocally and loudly criticized the ambassadorial postings. From a public affairs perspective, how significant is this pushback in shaping public debate around foreign policy appointments?
Yes, you can agree with me, and even with the APC, that not just the number, like they rightly said, we have 109 diplomatic missions, comprising of 76 embassies, 22 high commissions, and 11 consulates, and out of which they are sending just 65 people. Recall that these people have been approved since December, and they are just getting postings now. And like they said, the agrément will have to be received before you think of, sending them out of the country. But from what we gathered, as at 2 days ago, they were saying it was only 2 agréments that have been received, that of UK and that of France. But this evening, I heard from another source that it's only UK that they have received agrément from, which is very, very bad, because according to the 1961 Vienna Convention, a country can reject your ambassadorial nominee without giving you reasons. So that is why it's always important and significant that you must get the agrément of those countries before you start posting people to some of these countries. This evening, I was reading a story, and somebody was condemning the posting to Germany because the man has been condemning Israel in the attack in Iran. And such things, some of these European countries are supporting the Israeli and American attack to Iran. So such things might inhibit or stop or make that country to reject such ambassadorial nominee. So it is important that we get these agreements before we begin to, post people to countries. Because at the end of the day, if they reject them, there's nothing you can do. There's no recourse to it. You have to start all over again. Don't forget, we have a shortage of 44 ambassadors, high commissioners, and consulates that we have not met. However, it is not always important that all the embassies must have the postings. At times, because of finance, some countries don't post to all the countries that they have relationship with. Peculiar with Nigeria, we learned from reliable sources that what is stopping this posting is funding. And the question we're asking is, if it is funding, all the monies we have been getting from all the sources, from taxes, from FIRS, from customs, from the subsidy, and what have you been doing with those monies?
All right, Professor.
So at the end of the day,
all right, how important would you say is professional diplomatic experience when selecting ambassadors, especially in key missions where Nigeria's strategic, economic, and security interests are at stake?
Naturally, you should look at people that have such diplomatic depth before you can do your postings. But recall that these are political appointees. So the president has the prerogative to appoint anybody he wants. But in a more serious countries, they look at the pedigree of the people that they are sending out. They look at what they have done in the past. They look at their understanding of the international community and the diplomatic circle before postings are being made. Recall equally that they are supposed to do an induction workshop, which has not been done. But I learned that the president equally said during his speech that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should do that as quickly as possible. And these things will have to be done before you think of posting them up. And one other issue that people are complaining of is the length of time. Recall by May, this government will be 3 years in the saddle, so they have only 1 year. That could even make some countries to say, no, what's the person coming to do in 1 year? Because except the president gets a second tenure, it means that by May next year, May 2027, they'll be thinking of changing ambassadorial nominees. So, and that does not augur well with some countries. So that could be even a factor for rejecting some of these nominees.
All right, so could some of the controversies that we're seeing, because we do have other organizations that are coming out to speak about the ambassadorial postings, now could controversy surrounding diplomatic postings affect Nigeria's credibility or the country's negotiating strength with international partners?
Of course, it will affect the negotiating strength, because if you don't have somebody who can speak up, somebody who understands the diplomatic circle, the diplomatic terrain, is different from politicking in your local village or your local country. You see, so diplomatic maneuvers are strategic issues that should not be left to greenhorns. When I mean greenhorns, I don't mean that when you appoint ambassadorial career officers that they are greenhorns. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean are people that don't understand the nitty-gritty of diplomacy. So you don't post such people to countries that you know that you have issues to sort out with. It must be people that are, good with what is happening in the global village. The world today is a global village. So every ambassador must be subject experts in the area that wants to perform. So that's why we're saying that it's a serious business. It's not like every other political appointee that you can appoint anybody. And however, these ambassadors have assistants that could help them. But then I normally tell people that advice is a second opinion. The person in the saddle must have his own opinion before he's looking for an advice.
All right, so what message do ambassadorial appointments send about a country's foreign policy priorities, as well as the international engagement strategies?
Now, the message is sent is that when they look at the caliber of people you're sending, they begin to wonder, what kind of appointments are these when you have more capable hands? But like I said, you see, these are political appointments. It's the prerogative of the president. So the president can decide to appoint anybody, and you cannot query that because it's been given to him to do. But what we are saying is that in doing that, he has to take certain things into consideration. He has to, ask questions here and there. He can't know it all. So he must assemble people, that a think tank that could, look at people's past and present dispositions and qualifications and their interactions and what have you, publications and what have you. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, the world is a global village. Some of the things people have written in the past and they are writing now on social media, in newspapers, on television, some of them are going to count against some of these people. So we need to be very careful in making such selections. We need to be extremely very careful.
All right, thank you very much. That was Public Affairs Analyst Professor Simeon Nnah speaking on Nigeria's latest ambassadorial appointments that has received some criticism coming from the ADC, as also other coffers of the country. Thank you so much.